Morocco. Officially, the Kingdom of Morocco is a country in the Maghreb region of North Africa. It overlooks the Mediterranean Sea to the north and the Atlantic Ocean to the west, and has land borders with Algeria to the east, and the disputed territory of Western Sahara to the south. Morocco also claims the Spanish exclaves of Ceuta, Melilla, and Peñón de Vélez de la Gomera, and several small Spanish-controlled islands off its coast. It has a population of roughly 37 million, the official and predominant religion is Islam, and the official languages are Arabic and Berber. French and the Moroccan dialect of Arabic are also widely spoken. Moroccan identity and culture is a mix of Arab, Berber, African and European cultures. Its capital is Rabat, while its largest city is Casablanca. The region constituting Morocco has been inhabited since the Paleolithic era over 300,000 years ago. The Idrisid dynasty was established by Idris I in 788 and was subsequently ruled by a series of other independent dynasties, reaching its zenith as a regional power in the 11th and 12th centuries, under the Almoravid and Almohad dynasties, when it controlled most of the Iberian Peninsula and the Maghreb. Centuries of Arab migration to the Maghreb since the 7th century shifted the demographic scope of the region. In the 15th and 16th centuries, Morocco faced external threats to its sovereignty, with Portugal seizing some territory and the Ottoman Empire encroaching from the east. The Marinid and Saadi dynasties otherwise resisted foreign domination, and Morocco was the only North African nation to escape Ottoman dominion. The Alau'i dynasty, which rules the country to this day, seized power in 1631, and over the next 2 centuries expanded diplomatic and commercial relations with the Western world. Morocco's strategic location near the mouth of the Mediterranean drew renewed European interest. In 1912, France and Spain divided the country into respective protectorates, reserving an international zone in Tangier. Following intermittent riots and revolts against colonial rule, in 1956, Morocco regained its independence and reunified. Since independence, Morocco has remained relatively stable. It has the 5th largest economy in Africa and wields significant influence in both Africa and the Arab world. It is considered a middle power in global affairs and holds membership in the Arab League, the Arab Maghreb Union, the Union for the Mediterranean, and the African Union. Morocco is a unitary semi-constitutional monarchy with an elected parliament. The executive branch is led by the King of Morocco and the Prime Minister, while legislative power is vested in the 2 chambers of parliament, the House of Representatives and the House of Councillors. Judicial power rests with the Constitutional Court, which may review the validity of laws, elections, and referendums. The king holds vast executive and legislative powers, especially over the military, foreign policy and religious affairs. He can issue decrees called da'irs, which have the force of law, and can also dissolve the parliament after consulting the prime minister and the president of the constitutional court. Morocco claims ownership of the non-self-governing territory of Western Sahara, which it has designated its southern provinces. In 1975, after Spain agreed to decolonize the territory and cede its control to Morocco and Mauritania, a guerrilla war broke out between those powers and some of the local inhabitants. In 1979, Mauritania relinquished its claim to the area, but the war continued to rage. In 1991, a ceasefire agreement was reached, but the issue of sovereignty remained unresolved. Today, Morocco occupies 2/3 of the territory, and efforts to resolve the dispute have thus far failed to break the political deadlock. Etymology and name. The English Morocco is an anglicization of the Spanish name for the country, Marruecos, derived from the name of the city of Marrakech, which was the capital of the Almoravid dynasty, the Almohad Caliphate, and the Saadian dynasty. During the Almoravid dynasty, the city of Marrakesh was established under the name of Tamurakust, derived from the city's ancient Berber name of Amur. In English, the first vowel has been changed, likely influenced by the word Moor. Historically, the territory has been part of what Muslim geographers referred to as al-Maghrib al-Ak, the farthest west of the Islamic world, designating roughly the area from Tiaret to the Atlantic, in contrast with neighboring regions of al-Maghrib al-Awza, the Middle West, Tripoli to Bijaya, and al-Maghrib al-Adna, the nearest west, Alexandria to Tripoli. Morocco's modern Arabic name is al-Maghrib, with the kingdom's official Arabic name being al-Mamlakah al-Maghribiyah. In Turkish, Morocco is known as Fez, a name derived from its medieval capital of Fes, which is derived from the Arabic word Fez, as the city's founder Idris ibn Abd Allah reputedly used a silver and gold pickaxe to trace the outlines of the city. In other parts of the Islamic world, for example in Egyptian and Middle Eastern Arabic literature before the mid-20th century, Morocco was commonly referred to as Marrakesh. The term is still used to refer to Morocco today in several Indo-Iranian languages, including Persian, Urdu, and Punjabi. Morocco has also been referred to politically by a variety of terms denoting the Sharifi heritage of the Alawi dynasty, such as al-Mamlakah ash-Sharifa, al-Yali ash-Sharifa, and al-Mamlakah ash-Sharifa, rendered in French as El Empire Charifian and in English as the Sharifian Empire. History. Prehistory and Antiquity. The area of present-day Morocco has been inhabited since at least Paleolithic times, beginning sometime between 190,000 and 90,000 BC. A recent publication has suggested that there is evidence for even earlier human habitation of the area. Homo sapiens fossils that had been discovered in the late 2000s near the Atlantic coast in Jebel Irhoud were recently dated to roughly 315,000 years ago. During the Upper Paleolithic, the Maghreb was more fertile than it is today, resembling a savanna, in contrast to its modern arid landscape. 22,000 years ago, the Aterian culture was succeeded by the Ibero-Maurician culture, which shared similarities with Iberian cultures. Skeletal similarities have been suggested between the human remains found at Ibero-Maurician Mecta-Afalo burial sites and European Cro-Magnon remains. The Ibero-Maurician culture was succeeded by the Beaker culture in Morocco. Mitochondrial DNA studies have discovered a close ancestral link between Berbers and the Sami of Scandinavia. This evidence supports the theory that some of the peoples who had been living in the Franco-Cantabrian refuge area of southwestern Europe during the late glacial period migrated to northern Europe, contributing to its repopulation after the last ice age. In the early part of classical antiquity, northwest Africa and Morocco were slowly drawn into the wider emerging Mediterranean world by the Phoenicians, who established trading colonies and settlements there, the most substantial of which were Shala, Lixus, and Magadir. Magadir was established as a Phoenician colony as early as the 6th century BC. Morocco later became a realm of the northwest African civilization of ancient Carthage, and part of the Carthaginian Empire. The earliest known independent Moroccan state was the Berber Kingdom of Mauritania, under King Baga. This ancient kingdom, not to be confused with the modern state of Mauritania, flourished around 225 BC or earlier. Mauritania became a client kingdom of the Roman Empire in 33 BC. Emperor Claudius annexed Mauritania directly in 44 AD, making it a Roman province ruled by an imperial governor. During the crisis of the 3rd century, parts of Mauritania were reconquered by Berbers. By the late 3rd century, direct Roman rule had become confined to a few coastal cities, such as Septem in Mauritania Tingitana and Cherchell in Mauritania Caesarensis. When, in 429 AD, the area was devastated by the Vandals, the Roman Empire lost its remaining possessions in Mauritania, and local Moro-Roman kings assumed control of them. In the 530s, the Eastern Roman Empire, under Byzantine control, re-established direct imperial rule of Septim and Tingi, fortified Tingis, and erected a church. Foundation and dynastic period. The Muslim conquest of the Maghreb that had begun during the mid-7th century was completed under the Umayyad Caliphate by 709. The Caliphate introduced both Islam and the Arabic language to the area. This period also saw the beginning of a trend of Arab migration to the Maghreb which would last for centuries and effect a demographic shift in the region. While constituting part of the larger empire, Morocco was initially organized as a subsidiary province of Afriqiya, with the local governors appointed by the Muslim governor in Kairouan. The indigenous Berber tribes adopted Islam, but retained their customary laws. They also paid taxes and tribute to the new Muslim administration. The first independent Muslim state in the area of modern Morocco was the Kingdom of Nekr, an emirate in the Rif Mountains. It was founded by Sulayh ibn Mansur in 710, as a client state to the Umayyad Caliphate. After the outbreak of the Berber Revolt in 739, the Berbers formed other independent states such as the Manasa of Sijil Mesa and the Bargawada. The founder of the Idrisid dynasty and the great-grandson of Hassan ibn Ali, Idris ibn Abdullah, had fled to Morocco after the massacre of his family by the Abbasids in the Hejaz. He convinced the Arabo-Berber tribes to break their allegiance to the distant Abbasid caliphs and he founded the Idrisid dynasty in 788. The Idrisids established Fes as their capital and Morocco became a center of Muslim learning and a major regional power. The Idrisids were ousted in 927 by the Fatimid Caliphate and their Manasa allies. After Manasa broke off relations with the Fatimids in 932, they were removed from power by the Maghrawa of Sijil Mesa in 980. From the 11th century onward, a series of Berber dynasties arose. Under the Sanyaja al-Muravid dynasty and the Mazmuda al-Mohad dynasty, Morocco dominated the Maghreb, Al-Andalus in Iberia, and the Western Mediterranean region. From the 13th century onward the country saw a massive migration of the Banu Hilal Arab tribes. In the 13th and 14th centuries the Zenata Berber Marinids held power in Morocco and strove to replicate the successes of the Almohads through military campaigns in Algeria and Spain. They were followed by the Wattasids. In the 15th century, the Reconquista ended Muslim rule in Iberia and many Muslims and Jews fled to Morocco. Portuguese efforts to control the Atlantic Sea trade in the 15th century did not greatly affect the interior of Morocco even though they managed to control some possessions on the Moroccan coast but not venturing further afield inland. In 1549, the region fell to successive Arab dynasties claiming descent from the Islamic prophet Muhammad, first the Saudi dynasty who ruled from 1549 to 1659, and then the Alau'i dynasty, who have remained in power since the 17th century. Morocco faced aggression from Spain in the north, and the Ottoman Empire's allies pressing westward. Under the Saudis, the Sultanate ended the Portuguese Ovaïs dynasty in 1578 at the Battle of Alcácer Quibir. The reign of Ahmed al-Mansur brought new wealth and prestige to the Sultanate, and a large expedition to West Africa inflicted a crushing defeat on the Songhai Empire in 1591. However, managing the territories across the Sahara proved too difficult. Upon the death of al-Mansur, the country was divided among his sons. After a period of political fragmentation and conflict during the decline of the Saudi dynasty, Morocco was finally reunited by the Alau'i Sultan al-Rashid in the late 1660s, who took Fez in 1666 and Marrakesh in 1668. The Alauis succeeded in stabilizing their position, and while the kingdom was smaller than previous ones in the region, it remained quite wealthy. Against the opposition of local tribes, Ismail ibn Sharif began to create a unified state. With his Rifian army, he reoccupied Tangier from the English, who had abandoned it in 1684, and drove the Spanish from Larache in 1689. The Portuguese abandoned Mazagao, their last territory in Morocco, in 1769. However, the siege of Melilla against the Spanish ended in defeat in 1775. Morocco was the first nation to recognize the fledgling United States as an independent nation in 1777. In the beginning of the American Revolution, American merchant ships in the Atlantic Ocean were subject to attacks by other fleets. On December 20, 1777, Morocco's Sultan Mohammed III declared that American merchant ships would be under the protection of the Sultanate and could thus enjoy safe passage. The 1786 Moroccan-American Treaty of Friendship stands as the United States' oldest unbroken friendship treaty. French and Spanish protectorates. As Europe industrialized, Northwest Africa was increasingly prized for its potential for colonization. France showed a strong interest in Morocco as early as 1830, not only to protect the border of its Algerian territory, but also because of the strategic position of Morocco with coasts on the Mediterranean and the open Atlantic. In 1860, a dispute over Spain's Ceuta enclave led Spain to declare war. Victorious Spain won a further enclave and an enlarged Ceuta in the settlement. In 1884, Spain created a protectorate in the coastal areas of Morocco. In 1904, France and Spain carved out zones of influence in Morocco. Recognition by the United Kingdom of France's sphere of influence provoked a strong reaction from the German Empire, and a crisis loomed in 1905. The matter was resolved at the Algeciras Conference in 1906. The Agadir crisis of 1911 increased tensions between European powers. The 1912 Treaty of Fez made Morocco a protectorate of France, and triggered the 1912 Fez riots. Spain continued to operate its coastal protectorate. By the same treaty, Spain assumed the role of protecting power over the northern coastal and southern Saharan zones. Tens of thousands of colonists entered Morocco. Some bought up large amounts of rich agricultural land, while others organized the exploitation and modernization of mines and harbors. Interest groups that formed among these elements continually pressured France to increase its control over Morocco, with some Moroccan tribes allying with the French against other competing tribes from early on in its conquest. The French colonial administrator, Governor-General Marshal Hubert Lyautey, sincerely admired Moroccan culture and succeeded in imposing a joint Moroccan-French administration, while creating a modern school system. Several divisions of Moroccan soldiers served in the French army in both World War I and World War II, and in the Spanish Nationalist Army in the Spanish Civil War and after. The institution of slavery was abolished in 1925. Between 1921 and 1926, an uprising in the Rif Mountains, led by Abd el-Krim, led to the establishment of the Republic of the Rif. The Spanish used anti-civilian bombing raids and mustard gas to prevent the Rif Republic from gaining independence. They lost more than 13,000 soldiers at Annual in July-August 1921 alone. The Rifi were eventually suppressed by 1927 by the Franco-Spanish military. The casualties on the Spanish-French side were 52,000 and from the Rifi 10,000 died. In 1943, the Istiqlal Party was founded to press for independence, with discreet U.S. support. Moroccan nationalists drew heavily on transnational activist networks for lobbying to end colonial rule, primarily at the United Nations. The Istiqlal Party subsequently provided most of the leadership for the nationalist movement. France's exile of Sultan Mohammed V in 1953 to Madagascar and his replacement by the unpopular Mohammed Ben Arafat sparked active opposition to the French and Spanish protectorates. The most notable violence occurred in Ceuta, where Moroccans attacked French and other European residents in the streets. France allowed Mohammed V to return in 1955, and the negotiations that led to Moroccan independence began the following year. In March 1956, Morocco regained its independence from France as the Kingdom of Morocco. A month later, Spain forsook its protectorate in northern Morocco to the new state, but kept its two coastal enclaves on the Mediterranean coast, which dated from earlier conquests, but over which Morocco still claims sovereignty to this day. Post-independence. Sultan Mohammed became king in 1957. Upon the death of Mohammed V, Hassan II became king of Morocco on March 3, 1961. Morocco held its first general elections in 1963. However, Hassan declared a state of emergency and suspended parliament in 1965. In 1971 and 1972, there were two failed attempts to depose the king and establish a republic. A truth commission set up in 2005 to investigate human rights abuses during his reign confirmed nearly 10,000 cases, ranging from death in detention to forced exile. Some 592 people were recorded killed during Hassan's rule, according to the Truth Commission. In 1963, the Sand War was fought between Algerian and Moroccan troops over Moroccan claims to parts of Algerian territory. A formal peace agreement was signed in February 1964, however, relations remained strained between the two countries following the conflict. The Spanish enclave of Ifni in the south was returned to Morocco in 1969. The Polisario movement was formed in 1973, with the aim of establishing an independent state in the Spanish Sahara. On November 6, 1975, King Hassan asked for volunteers to cross into the Spanish Sahara. Some 350,000 civilians were reported as being involved in the Green March. A month later, Spain agreed to leave the Spanish Sahara, soon to become Western Sahara, and to transfer it to joint Moroccan-Mauritanian control, despite the objections and threats of military intervention by Algeria. Moroccan forces occupied the territory. Moroccan and Algerian troops soon clashed in Western Sahara. Morocco and Mauritania divided up Western Sahara. Fighting between the Moroccan military and Polisario forces continued for many years. The prolonged war was a considerable financial drain on Morocco. In 1983, Hassan cancelled planned elections amid political unrest and economic crisis. In 1984, Morocco left the Organization of African Unity in protest at the SADR's admission to the body. Polisario claimed to have killed more than 5,000 Moroccan soldiers between 1982 and 1985. Algerian authorities have estimated the number of Sahrawi refugees in Algeria to be 165,000. Diplomatic relations with Algeria were restored in 1988. In 1991, an unmonitored ceasefire began in Western Sahara, but the territory's status remains undecided and ceasefire violations are reported. The following decade saw much wrangling over a proposed referendum on the future of the territory, but the deadlock was not broken. Political reforms in the 1990s resulted in the establishment of a bicameral legislature, with Morocco's first opposition-led government coming to power. King Hassan II died in 1999 and was succeeded by his son, Mohammed VI. He is a cautious modernizer who has introduced some economic and social liberalization. Mohammed VI paid a controversial visit to the Western Sahara in 2002. Morocco unveiled an autonomy blueprint for Western Sahara to the United Nations in 2007. The Polisario rejected the plan and put forward its own proposal. Morocco and the Polisario Front held unsponsored talks in New York City but failed to come to any agreement. In 2010, security forces stormed a protest camp in the Western Sahara, triggering violent demonstrations in the regional capital El Aoun. In 2002, Morocco and Spain agreed to a brokered resolution over the disputed island of Perijal. Spanish troops had taken the normally uninhabited island after Moroccan soldiers landed on it and set up tents and a flag. There were renewed tensions in 2005, as dozens of African migrants stormed the borders of the Spanish enclaves of Melilla and Ceuta. In response, Spain deported dozens of the illegal migrants to Morocco from Melilla. In 2006, the Spanish Premier Zapatero visited Spanish enclaves. He was the first Spanish leader in 25 years to make an official visit to the territories. The following year, Spanish King Juan Carlos I visited Ceuta and Melilla, further angering Morocco, which demanded control of the enclaves. During the 2011 to 2012 Moroccan protests, thousands of people rallied in Rabat and other cities calling for political reform and a new constitution curbing the powers of the king. In July 2011, the king won a landslide victory in a referendum on a reformed constitution he had proposed to placate the Arab Spring protests. In the first general elections that followed, the moderate Islamist Justice and Development Party won a plurality of seats, with Abdelilah Benkarain being designated as head of government per the new constitution. Despite the reforms made by Mohammed VI, demonstrators continued to call for deeper reforms. Hundreds took part in a trade union rally in Casablanca in May 2012. Participants accused the government of failing to deliver on reforms. On December 10, 2020, Israel-Morocco normalization agreement was announced and Morocco announced its intention to resume diplomatic relations with Israel. Joint Declaration of the Kingdom of Morocco, the United States of America and the State of Israel was signed on December 22, 2020. On August 24, 2021, neighboring Algeria cut diplomatic relations with Morocco, accusing Morocco of supporting a separatist group and hostile actions against Algeria. Morocco called the decision unjustified. On September 8, 2023, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake hit Morocco, killing more than 2,800 people and injuring thousands. The epicenter of the quake was around 70 kilometers southwest of city of Marrakesh. Geography. Morocco has a coast by the Atlantic Ocean that reaches past the Strait of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean Sea. It is bordered by Spain to the north, a water border through the strait, and land borders with three small Spanish-controlled exclaves, Ceuta, Melilla, and Peñón de Vélez de la Gomera, Algeria to the east, and Western Sahara to the south. Since Morocco controls most of Western Sahara, its de facto southern boundary is with Mauritania. The geography of Morocco spans from the Atlantic Ocean, to mountainous areas, to the Sahara Desert. Morocco is a northern African country, bordering the North Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, between Algeria and the annexed Western Sahara. It is one of only 3 nations along with Spain and France to have both Atlantic and Mediterranean coastlines. A large part of Morocco is mountainous. The Atlas Mountains are located mainly in the center and the south of the country. The Rif Mountains are located in the north of the country. Both ranges are mainly inhabited by the Berber people. Its total area is about 446,300 square kilometers. Algeria borders Morocco to the east and southeast, though the border between the two countries has been closed since 1994. Spanish territory in northwest Africa neighboring Morocco comprises 5 enclaves on the Mediterranean coast: Ceuta, Melilla, Peñón de Vélez de la Gomera, Peñón de al-Housmas, the Chafarinas Islands, and the disputed islet Perijal. Off the Atlantic coast the Canary Islands belong to Spain, whereas Madeira to the north is Portuguese. To the north, Morocco is bordered by the Strait of Gibraltar, where international shipping has unimpeded transit passage between the Atlantic and Mediterranean. The Rif Mountains stretch over the region bordering the Mediterranean from the northwest to the northeast. The Atlas Mountains run down the backbone of the country, from the northeast to the southwest. Most of the southeast portion of the country is in the Sahara Desert and as such is generally sparsely populated and unproductive economically. Most of the population lives to the north of these mountains, while to the south lies the Western Sahara, a former Spanish colony that was annexed by Morocco in 1975. Morocco claims that the Western Sahara is part of its territory and refers to that as its southern provinces. Morocco's capital city is Rabat, its largest city is its main port, Casablanca. Other cities recording a population over 500,000 in the 2014 Moroccan census are Fes, Marrakesh, Means, Sale, and Tangier. Morocco is represented in the ISO 3166-1 Alpha 2 geographical encoding standard by the symbol Ma. This code was used as the basis for Morocco's internet domain, .ma. Government and politics. According to the 2022 Economist Democracy Index, Morocco is ruled under a hybrid regime, scoring 3 in the Middle East and North Africa, and 95 in the world. Morocco has a difficult ranking on the 2023 World Press Freedom Index. Following the March 1998 elections, a coalition government headed by opposition socialist leader Abderrahmane Youssoufi and composed largely of ministers drawn from opposition parties, was formed. Prime Minister Youssoufi's government was the first ever government drawn primarily from opposition parties, and also represents the first opportunity for a coalition of socialists, left of center, and nationalist parties to be included in the government until October 2002. It was also the first time in the modern political history of the Arab world that the opposition assumed power following an election. The current government is headed by Aziz Akhannouch. The Constitution of Morocco provides for a monarchy with a parliament and an independent judiciary. With the 2011 constitutional reforms, the King of Morocco retains less executive powers whereas those of the Prime Minister have been enlarged. The Constitution grants the King honorific powers among other powers. He is both the secular political leader and the commander of the faithful as a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. He presides over the Council of Ministers, appoints the Prime Minister from the political party that has won the most seats in the parliamentary elections, and on recommendations from the latter, appoints the members of the government. The Constitution of 1996 theoretically allowed the king to terminate the tenure of any minister, and after consultation with the heads of the higher and lower assemblies, to dissolve the parliament, suspend the constitution, call for new elections, or rule by decree. The only time this happened was in 1965. The king is formally the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Since the constitutional reform of 1996, the bicameral legislature consists of 2 chambers. The Assembly of Representatives of Morocco has 395 members elected for a 5-year term, 305 elected in multi-seat constituencies and 90 in national lists consisting of women and youth. The Assembly of Councillors has 120 members, elected for a 6-year term. 72 members are elected at the regional level, 20 members are elected from trade unions, 8 seats from professional organizations and 20 from wage earners. The parliament's powers, though still relatively limited, were expanded under the 1992 and 1996 and even further in the 2011 constitutional revisions and include budgetary matters, approving bills, questioning ministers, and establishing ad hoc commissions of inquiry to investigate the government's actions. The lower chamber of parliament may dissolve the government through a vote of no confidence. The latest parliamentary elections were held on September 8, 2021. Voter turnout in these elections was estimated to be 50.35% of registered voters. Morocco is officially divided into 12 regions, which, in turn, are subdivided into 62 provinces and 13 prefectures. Foreign relations. Morocco is a member of the United Nations and belongs to the African Union, Arab League, Arab Maghreb Union, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the Non-Aligned Movement and the Community of Sahel, Saharan states. Morocco's relationships vary greatly between African, Arab, and Western states. Morocco has had strong ties to the West in order to gain economic and political benefits. France and Spain remain the primary trade partners, as well as the primary creditors and foreign investors in Morocco. From the total foreign investments in Morocco, the European Union invests approximately 73%, whereas, the Arab world invests only 19%. Many countries from the Persian Gulf and Maghreb regions are getting more involved in large-scale development projects in Morocco. Morocco's membership in the African Union has been marked by significant events. In 1984, Morocco withdrew from the organization after it admitted the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic in 1982 without conducting a referendum of self-determination in the disputed territory of Western Sahara. This decision was made unilaterally by Morocco. However, in 2017, Morocco rejoined the OU, signaling a shift in its diplomatic stance. In August 2021, Algeria severed diplomatic relations with Morocco. In 2002, a dispute with Spain in 2002 over the small island of Perijal arose, which brought attention to the issue of the sovereignty of Melilla and Ceuta. These small enclaves on the Mediterranean coast are surrounded by Morocco and have been under Spanish administration for centuries. In 2004, the George W. Bush administration granted Morocco the status of major non-NATO ally. It is worth noting that Morocco was the first country in the world to recognize U.S. sovereignty, in 1777. After gaining independence, Morocco established strong ties with the United States, receiving significant economic and military aid. This partnership flourished during the Cold War, with Morocco becoming a key ally against communist expansion in North Africa. In return, the U.S. supported Morocco's territorial ambitions and efforts to modernize its economy. Morocco received more than $400 million in American aid between 1957 and 1963, which elevated it to the fifth largest recipient of U.S. agricultural assistance by 1966. The long-lasting relationship between the two nations has endured, with the U.S. remaining one of Morocco's top allies. Additionally, Morocco is included in the European Union's European Neighborhood Policy, which aims at bringing the EU and its neighbors closer. The Polisario Front control the territory east of the Moroccan Berm. The status of the Sakia El Hamra and Rio de Oro regions is disputed. The Western Sahara War saw the Polisario Front, the Sahrawi rebel National Liberation Movement, battling both Morocco and Mauritania between 1976 and a ceasefire in 1991 that is still in effect. A United Nations mission, MINURSO, is tasked with organizing a referendum on whether the territory should become independent or recognized as a part of Morocco. Part of the territory, the Free Zone, is a mostly uninhabited area that the Polisario Front controls as the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. Its administrative headquarters are located in Tindouf, Algeria. As of 2006, no UN member state had recognized Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara. In 2020, the United States under the Trump administration became the first Western country to back Morocco's contested sovereignty over the disputed Western Sahara region, on the agreement that Morocco would simultaneously normalize relations with Israel. In 2006, the government of Morocco suggested autonomous status for the region, through the Moroccan Royal Advisory Council for Saharan Affairs. The project was presented to the United Nations Security Council in mid-April 2007. The proposal was encouraged by Moroccan allies such as the United States, France, and Spain. The Security Council has called upon the parties to enter into direct and unconditional negotiations to reach a mutually accepted political solution. Military. Morocco's military consists of the Royal Armed Forces. This includes the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Royal Guard, the Royal Gendarmerie and the Auxiliary Forces. Internal security is generally effective, and acts of political violence are rare with one exception, the 2003 Casablanca bombings which killed 45 people. The UN maintains a small observer force in Western Sahara, where a large number of Moroccan troops are stationed. The Sahrawi Polisario Front maintains an active militia of an estimated 5,000 fighters in Western Sahara and has engaged in intermittent warfare with Moroccan forces since the 1970s. Economy. Morocco's economy is considered a relatively liberal economy governed by the law of supply and demand. Since 1993, the country has followed a policy of privatization of certain economic sectors which used to be in the hands of the government. Morocco has become a major player in African economic affairs, and is the fifth largest economy in Africa by GDP. Morocco was ranked as the first African country by the Economist Intelligence Unit's Quality of Life Index, ahead of South Africa. However, in the years since that first place ranking was given, Morocco has slipped into fourth place behind Egypt. Government reforms and steady yearly growth in the region of 4 to 5% from 2000 to 2007, including 5% year-on-year growth in 2003 to 2007 helped the Moroccan economy to become much more robust compared to a few years earlier. For 2012, the World Bank forecast a rate of 4% growth for Morocco and 4.2% for following year, 2013. The services sector accounts for just over half of GDP, and industry, made up of mining, construction, and manufacturing, is an additional quarter. The industries that recorded the highest growth are tourism, telecoms, information technology, and textile. Demographics. Morocco has a population of around 37,076,584 inhabitants. It is estimated that between 44% and 67% of residents are Arabs and between 31% and 41% are Berbers. A sizable portion of the population is identified as Haradin and Nawa, West African or mixed-race descendants of slaves, and Moriscos, European Muslims expelled from Spain and Portugal in the 17th century. Centuries of Arab migration to the Maghreb since the 7th century shifted the demographic scope of Morocco. According to the 2014 Morocco population census, there were around 84,000 immigrants in the country. Of these foreign-born residents, most were of French origin, followed by individuals mainly from various nations in West Africa and Algeria. There are also a number of foreign residents of Spanish origin. Some of them are descendants of colonial settlers, who primarily work for European multinational companies, while others are married to Moroccans or are retirees. Prior to independence, Morocco was home to 500,000 Europeans, who were mostly Christians. Also, prior to independence, Morocco was home to 250,000 Spaniards. Morocco's once prominent Jewish minority has decreased significantly since its peak of 265,000 in 1948, declining to around 3,500 in 2022. Morocco has a large diaspora, most of which is located in France, which has reportedly over 1 million Moroccans of up to the third generation. There are also large Moroccan communities in Spain, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Other large communities can be found in Italy, Canada, the United States, and Israel, where Moroccan Jews are thought to constitute the second biggest Jewish ethnic subgroup. Religion. The religious affiliation in the country was estimated by the Pew Forum in 2010 as 99% Muslim, with all remaining groups accounting for less than 1% of the population. Of those affiliated with Islam, virtually all are Sunni Muslims, with Shia Muslims accounting for less than 0.1%. However, nearly 15% of Moroccans nonetheless describe themselves as non-religious according to an 2018 survey conducted by the research network Arab Barometer. The same survey saw nearly 100% of respondents identify as Muslims. Another 2021 Arab Barometer survey found that 67.8% of Moroccans identified as religious, 29% as somewhat religious, and 3% as non-religious. The 2015 Gallup International poll reported that 93% of Moroccans considered themselves to be religious. Prior to independence, Morocco was home to more than 500,000 Christians, mostly of Spanish and French ancestry. Many Christian settlers left to Spain or France after the independence in 1956. The predominantly Catholic and Protestant foreign resident Christian community consists of approximately 40,000 practicing members. Most foreign resident Christians reside in the Casablanca, Tangier, and Rabat urban areas. Various local Christian leaders estimate that between 2005 and 2010 there are 5,000 citizen converted Christians, mostly ethnically Berber, who regularly attend house churches and live predominantly in the south. Some local Christian leaders estimate that there may be as many as 8,000 Christian citizens throughout the country, but many reportedly do not meet regularly due to fear of government surveillance and social persecution. The number of the Moroccans who converted to Christianity, most of them secret worshippers, are estimated between 8,000 and 50,000. The most recent estimates put the size of the historic Casablanca Jewish community at about 2,500, and the Rabat and Marrakesh Jewish communities at about 100 members each. The remainder of the Jewish population is dispersed throughout the country. This population is mostly elderly, with a decreasing number of young people. The Baha'i faith community, located in urban areas, numbers 350 to 400 persons. Languages. Morocco's official languages are Arabic and Berber. The country's distinctive group of Moroccan Arabic dialects is referred to as Darija. Approximately 90% of the whole population can communicate to some degree in Moroccan Arabic. The Berber language is spoken in 3 dialects. In 2008, Frédéric Desroches estimated that there were 12 million Berber speakers, making up about 40% of the population. The 2004 population census reported that 28% of the population spoke Berber. French is widely used in governmental institutions, media, mid-size and large companies, international commerce with French-speaking countries, and often in international diplomacy. French is taught as an obligatory language in all schools. In 2010, there were 10,366,000 French speakers in Morocco, or about 32% of the population. According to the 2004 census, 2.19 million Moroccans spoke a foreign language other than French. English, while far behind French in terms of number of speakers, is the first foreign language of choice, since French is obligatory among educated youth and professionals. According to Ethnology, as of 2016, there are 1,536,590 individuals, or approximately 4.5% of the population in Morocco, who speak Spanish. Spanish is mostly spoken in northern Morocco and the former Spanish Sahara because Spain had previously occupied those areas. Meanwhile, A 2018 study by the Instituto Cervantes found 1.7 million Moroccans who were at least proficient in Spanish, placing Morocco as the country with the most Spanish speakers outside the Hispanophone world, unless the United States is also excluded from Spanish-speaking countries. A significant portion of northern Morocco receives Spanish media, television signal, and radio airwaves, which reportedly facilitate competence in the language in the region. After Morocco declared independence in 1956, French and Arabic became the main languages of administration and education, causing the role of Spanish to decline. Culture. Morocco is a country with a rich culture and civilization. Through Moroccan history, it has hosted many people, all of whom have affected the social structure of Morocco. Since independence, a veritable blossoming has taken place in painting and sculpture, popular music, amateur theater, and filmmaking. The Moroccan National Theatre offers regular productions of Moroccan and French dramatic works. Art and music festivals take place throughout the country during the summer months, among them the World Sacred Music Festival at Fes. Each region possesses its own specificities, thus contributing to the national culture and to the legacy of civilization. Morocco has set among its top priorities the protection of its diverse legacy and the preservation of its cultural heritage. Culturally speaking, Morocco has always been successful in combining its Arabic, Berber, and Jewish cultural heritage with external influences such as the French and the Spanish and, during the last decades, the Anglo-American lifestyles. Cuisine. Moroccan cuisine is considered one of the most diversified cuisines in the world. This is a result of the centuries-long interaction of Morocco with the outside world. The cuisine of Morocco is mainly a fusion of Moorish, European, and Mediterranean cuisines. Spices are used extensively in Moroccan cuisine. While spices have been imported to Morocco for thousands of years, many ingredients such as saffron from Tilouan, mint, and olives from Means, and oranges and lemons from Fez, are homegrown. Chicken is the most widely eaten meat in Morocco. The most commonly eaten red meat in Morocco is beef. Lamb is preferred but is relatively expensive. The main Moroccan dish most people are familiar with is couscous, the old national delicacy. Beef is the most commonly eaten red meat in Morocco, usually eaten in a tagine with vegetables or legumes. Chicken is also very commonly used in tagines, knowing that one of the most famous tagine is the tagine of chicken, potatoes, and olives. Lamb is also consumed, but as Northwest African sheep breeds store most of their fat in their tails, Moroccan lamb does not have the pungent flavor that Western lamb and mutton have. Poultry is also very common, and the use of seafood is increasing in Moroccan food. In addition, there are dried salted meats and salted preserved meats such as klaya and jidid, which are used to flavor tagines or used in el graif, a folded savory Moroccan pancake. Among the most famous Moroccan dishes are couscous, pastilla, tagine, tangia, and harira. Although the latter is a soup, it is considered a dish in itself and is served as such or with dates, especially during the month of Ramadan. Pork consumption is forbidden in accordance with Sharia, religious laws of Islam. A big part of the daily meal is bread. Bread in Morocco is principally from durum wheat semolina known as cobs. Bakeries are very common throughout Morocco, and fresh bread is a staple in every city, town, and village. The most common is whole grain coarse ground or white flour bread. There are also a number of flat breads and pulled unleavened pan-fried breads. The most popular drink is atay, green tea with mint leaves and other ingredients. Tea occupies a very important place in the culture of Morocco and is considered an art form. It is served not only at meal times but all through the day, and it is especially a drink of hospitality, commonly served whenever there are guests. It is served to guests, and it is impolite to refuse it.